Kumusta? This is the dopamine guy, Mr. ADHD himself, and you are listening to my podcast, Mr. ADHD. If you have ADHD or someone you know has ADHD or you feel like you have ADHD, then this show is for you. Kaya kinig na! Last time, we talked about the presentations of ADHD in passing. But this episode, we are focusing on, no pun intended, the AD in ADHD, which is attention deficit or the lack of focus. And guys, just a disclaimer now, this video is for educational purposes only. So do not attempt to self-diagnose using the episodes or the podcasts that I have. Now, if you have any questions or concerns about ADHD or the diagnosis or the symptoms, please reach out to a licensed professional like a psychologist or psychiatrist to help you with managing and identifying ADHD. All right? In the last episode, I did mention that my presentation of ADHD would be the combined type. So I am the inattentive type or the attention deficit type and also the hyperactive impulsive type. But for this particular episode, like what we discussed in the introduction, we will be discussing about how it feels to have or to be the inattentive type of ADHD. So I will be talking about in two settings, no? Let's talk about first in school and also in office or social setting. All right. Now for it's very difficult to look back sa school kasi medyo matagal-tagal na. But as far as I know, like I said, no, I like school. I like the academic surrounding, the academic environment, and I thrive there. I would consider myself academically gifted. I like I said, hoarding information. I'm a trivia junkie, so to speak. So school is not really something that's difficult for me, fortunately. But it's not the case with other ADHD as well, no. Other ADHD or other people with ADHD as well. But in my case, like I said, school setting was easy for me. Now, tulad nga sinabi natin, the inattentive or the attention deficit part of ADHD would be focusing more on the mental stimulation. In that case, the school setting is providing me that stimulation, no? But I know for a fact that I easily get bored as well. I love subjects like science and math and physics. But yung mga subjects like history and unfortunately Filipino, yung mga literature, yon hindi ko masyado gusto kasi medyo boring naman, and especially with all the dates and all the facts na trying to remember, so medyo ako nahihirapan dyan. Now, unang-una, isang sign of the inattentive type when I was in high school or school at least was I'm easily distracted. I know for a fact that I avoid sitting beside the door kasi daan yung mga tao. So, alam mo yun, I'm very much aware of that. So, ayokong nakikita yung pintuan kasi nakikita ko na daan ng tao and nakikita ko sila, unfortunately, no? Another thing with being easily distracted, I tend to listen to mga seatmates, so naririnig ko yung mga daldalan nila. So, more often than not, nahihirapan din ako mag-focus because of that. Now, second would be, yun nga, careless mistakes. I see myself looking back na there are some mistakes in school, in instructions, and following instructions, and exams. Yung sobrang looking back na parang may mga small mistakes na dapat hindi naman na-overlook or na-oversee, pero because of that, bumaba yung grade score, something like that. And I'm also the type of student na maraming nawawalang bagay, no? Nawawala yung ruler, nawawala yung ballpen, nawawala yung books, minsan nawawala yung bag, yung payong. So, I'm that type of kid in school. And also, because of that yung nga, tulad ng sinabi natin, I easily get bored. Sa school setting, what I hated the most would be the social setting wherein I need to talk to people. And because of that, because of the lack of attention or the lack of interest with especially in dealing with other people, I tend to space out. So minsan they mistake that as snob, pagiging snob. Kaya minsan I get that impression that I am the antipatiko type, na tinatawag ako or sinisistan ako or they're trying to get my attention, pero since I'm spacing out or not really paying attention or distracted, hindi ko sila pinapansin. That's why I'm getting that in school a lot. That's why, again, I'm branded as the antipatiko or the snob type. Well, there's also truth to that, no? Anyways. And tulad ng sinabi ko, I was an honor student, so school was not a problem for me. I actually made an expertise, which is a very bad thing. This is a very bad coping mechanism na nadala ko also in at work setting, is yung procrastination. Yung mga assignments, yung mga projects, even the thesis, I think, in back in high school. Parang ginawa ko siya 1 week or a few days before the passing date. Although it was done well and technically in flying colors, but having the inattentive type or passing at least yung mga important tasks kasi nabobore ka and all would be an indication as well of having ADHD in school. So admittedly, I would say I am the master of procrastination, which is a bad thing. Now, for next segment naman, we will be talking about the inattentive type in the social setting and in the work setting. And now, papunta na tayo sa exciting part. The work or the social setting. Now, the main difference between school and office or work setting is that most of the time, if not all the time, you have to deal with people in a work setting, right? And I think, well, admittedly, I have problems with social setting. I don't like dealing with people as much as possible, and it's easier to do that when you were in school. So, pwedeng mag-library ka lang or mag-isa ka lang gumawa ng assignment or gumawa ng project. Pwede. But in school, there's collaboration. You have to coordinate with other people, with other departments as well. So, I think this is where I'm having problems most in terms of dealing with my ADHD symptoms. Now, yan, social setting, tulad nga na sinabi ko, social cues. I find it difficult to deal with people, and more often than not, I'm having it also a difficulty in reading people. And because of that, again, I revert to my coping mechanism, which is yung pagiging snob. So in the school setting, impression lang yon, yung pagiging snob and antipatiko. And in the work setting, I think I imbibe that, I live that personality, so I really am, or I really was, the antipathic or snob type, no? It was my personality then, I would say. I found that the less that you deal with people, the less that you have mistakes, and the less that they would notice that you are different. But tulad nga sinabi ko, hindi mo maiiwasan yung makipag-meet sa mga katrabaho mo, sa boss mo, sa mga tao sa ibang department, sa work setting. Kaya lalabas at lalabas kung ano man yung symptoms or deficiencies na meron ka. In my case, since I have that reputation already that I'm being snubbed or antipatiko, they know for a fact that I have the tendency to not listen to them when they talk. I tend to zone out also most of the time sa mga kausap ko, and people would call me out because of that, na parang kinakausap nila ako and I'm not paying attention. And fortunately, meron akong mga close friends in the office who would tell me at these times, no, na parang nag-zone out ka na naman or kinakausap ka ng maayos pero hindi ka sumasagot or hindi ka pinapansin, etc. etc. Sorry, I would say, yun na lang masasabi ko looking back. Sorry, no? Because of my ADHD, I wasn't able to pay attention to most of them. However, I work in the BPO industry, so the constant stimulation, the stressful environment provided me that constant stimulation. So I was never bored, I would say, in the BPO industry. However, at some point, I was actually transferred to a different department where the tasks involved would be less stressful. I was on my own. I was more an individual contributor versus being in the operations versus in the action or the limelight, ika nga, no? And this is where I see the problem with my ADHD. I was managing projects then, no? So multiple projects at the same time. I was a project manager. So I had that freedom. I have the time. I have everything technically to manage and organize stuff or tasks at hand. But I miserably fail. I remember that I was given months to prepare and usually gagawin ko lang yung task a few days and maggagahol, no? Prioritization is not something that is I was good at in at work. Usually napaprioritize ko na lang yung mga kailangan the next day or a few weeks, no? And in the long run, napapabayaan ko ibang tasks. So again, based on the impression and evaluation also of the people around me, especially my boss, or also an introspection, no, looking back, I was doing well in terms of projects that are very specific, say submission of a report of a project, etc. But it when it comes to laying down the groundwork, setting up, organizing stuff, this is my Waterloo. Aside from, of course, the having the problem with dealing with people or my social skills, so to speak. So unfortunately, it has affected my performance at work and also has provided me self-esteem and personality problems as well in the long run. And I think that's the effect of having the inattentive type, no, in the workplace setting. But like what I've said, I was good in managing and masking it as well. So these symptoms, looking back, I would attribute to having my ADHD. So there you have it, guys. Those were the presentations of the inattentive type. I experienced, or the ADHD feels when I was in school and at work, at least in the corporate world. But now let's talk about how ADHD or the inattentive type is being discussed, no, in the medical or the academic world. Now, here's a trivia, no? The ADD or the attention deficit disorder is actually the outdated term that describes the inattentive type of ADHD. But now, tulad na ng sinabi ko, it's outdated na, the term is scrap na. It's just one umbrella term for ADHD, whether you are the inattentive type or whether you are the hyperactive or the impulsive type. This is just under one umbrella, or the official term for the condition is ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So yan, sa ulo ko na yung meaning ng ADHD. Now, when presented with the inattentive subtype or presentation, the main hallmark would be symptoms including disorganization, lack of focus and attention, and definitely forgetfulness. No, so if you were diagnosed for having the inattentive type, the main problem areas or the main focus areas, again, no pun intended, would be the focus and attention. So if you are the inattentive type, dito daw tayo may problema, or at least may challenges, no? We are easily distracted, hence affecting our focus and attention. We are often daydreaming or seen na madaling ma-sidetracked. Di ba yung common joke dito sa US yung, "Oh, squirrel." that's how they usually describe this as a meme or as a joke, no, having ADHD. And of course, yung madaling mabore. This is also the inattentive type or subtype of ADHD. It's because ADHD, at least the ADHD brains, need constant stimulation, no? So if you're bored, if our brain is bored, we have the tendency to space out or daydream. That's why, welcome to the inattentive world of ADHD, no? And of course, nandiyan na rin yung loosest things, madaling makalimot ng mga bagay-bagay. So these are some of the hallmarks or symptoms of having the inattentive type of ADHD. Now, other symptoms or presentations of ADHD, or at least the predominantly inattentive presentation of ADHD, tulad ng sinabi ko, often has trouble staying focused on tasks at work, home, or play. Nahihirapan na mag-focus or magbigay ng attention sa mga details. That's why we often make careless mistakes at work, especially schoolwork. No, we also have, again, the trouble with organizational part of our brain, yung nga yung tinatawag nilang executive function, which we will later on be discussing in the future episodes. Easily distracted. There's also the part na nahihirapang mag-follow sa instructions, especially if it's involved too much mental effort and tediousness, so to speak. We also hate routines, no? Nakakalimutan yung mga routines which is supposedly dapat manual or ginagawa often, but it's so menial, so boring, so nakakalimutan. Yung mga tasks na if it requires you long period of time, sustained mental focus, definitely that's a big no-no for the inattentive type. No, tulad yung mga pag-prepare ng reports, yung pag-fill out ng mga tax returns, etc., etc. And of course, maraming nakakawala ng bagay, nakakalimutan, nawawalang mga gamit, cellphone, susi, payong, etc., etc. And of course, the person or the inattentive type symptom we're in, you are often misconstrued as someone not paying attention when spoken directly. So, karamihan sa mga inattentive type would have those symptoms, no? So, it's very tricky. This is parang an icing in the cake. This is not, parang these symptoms are not just about the inattentive type. Tulad ng sinabi ko previously, no? Ang presentations would actually move from different subtypes to one another in terms of the lifetime of a person with ADHD, no? So it could be at this stage I am very hyperactive, but at some point I will be predominantly inattentive, etc., etc. And more often than not, the inattentive type are less detected because yun nga, hindi siya as apparent as the hyperactive subtype. And more often than not, like what I did, we develop coping mechanisms and masking technique, so to speak, para hindi ma-notice yung symptoms of having the inattentive subtype of ADHD. So there you have it, guys. We discussed about the inattentive subtype of ADHD, or the AD, the attention deficit, and ADHD. I shared with you my experiences in school and at work, or at least the corporate work. And then I also shared with you some of the hallmarks or the symptoms or presentations of the inattentive subtype according to the medical and the academic world. No, I hope you learned something from me today. And next week or next episode, we will be discussing about the HD, or the hyperactive or the impulsive type naman, subtype of ADHD. And again, just a disclaimer, guys, this podcast channel and episodes is just for educational purposes only. So do not attempt to self-diagnose. And if you have any questions or concerns regarding the symptoms discussed in this episode or podcast channel, please reach out to licensed and qualified medical health professionals such as psychologists and psychiatrists. And also, guys, for the upcoming episodes, if you have any requests or topics that you would like to cover, just leave them, comment down below. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or concerns or violent reactions, please do the same. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channel as well. So this is your Mr. ADHD, the dopamine guy, now signing off.